West is where we belong, the wolves and I, and my old friends now dead. May we meet again on the other side. Blue Horse, Lakota Warrior, 1909. My name is Nayana, aka also known artistically as Lobo Reincarnated, and this is my canine angel. Today I'm going to share with you an idea that could save a species that is currently experiencing one of the most devastating poaching surges of our time, leading to a projected population crash towards irreversible extinction as early as 2019, the rhino. But first, I have to start this story with my 4-year-old self. The first time I saw an elephant, I was entranced. I picked up a marker and drew my first picture, an Asian elephant tusker. Elephants featured heavily in the news and newspapers at the time due to the poaching crisis of the early 90s. Then came wolves, an obsession that stuck, and a film called The Call of the Wild, which featured a German Shepherd leading a pack of wolves. That obsession gave me my best and only childhood friend, Big Sanji, rest in peace. As you can see, that obsession stuck. This is Angel, but that's a whole nother talk. But the reason I drew elephants went hand in hand with the crisis that brought them to my attention in the first place. This echoed throughout my entire early childhood. The animals that I was inspired by, wolves included, were in peril. There were 3 words and a phrase that was featured in every story: the illegal wildlife trade and an extinction crisis. Now, dinosaurs introduced children to the concept of extinction at an early age. It was a natural phenomenon. What was different, the reports all said, was this extinction event was entirely man-made. As the situation seemed to get worse with every passing year, and as a 7-year-old, I felt powerless to stop it. I kept drawing though, learning about each animal through drawing them. I knew since I first drew that elephant at 4 years old that somehow I want to help stop this crisis. This was my purpose. But how? My first big break came when I was 12 years old. The Australian government had an art competition for National Threatened Species Day on September 7th, the date the last Tasmanian tiger died on Earth, marking the species extinct. My entry was a yellow-footed rock wallaby due to Tassie tigers being off the list. And I won, along with some other kids, being featured on the national poster and getting a prize pack of Yowie paraphernalia. I was over the moon. But this always tied into a bigger picture. I want to be able to help these animals that inspire me actively. So, through the long run, I plan to be a wildlife vet. I didn't get the grades for veterinary medicine at 17, so I had to settle for human medicine, which I got the grades for. I can't fake passion, so I transferred to veterinary via mathematics. So, here I thought was how I could help solve this issue. I knew art would tie into that somehow. I was born an artist, trained as a scientist, but the art would always seep through. But I was always focused on the bigger picture, the extinction crisis. How could I be part of a solution? I quickly found I was stuck in a rural university learning about livestock in a 6-year course. I wanted to be out on the front line finding a solution when all the reports said that we were running out of time fast. Again, I felt helpless, but continued working to finish the degree. You see, the body is the earth and the blood is the species. Conservation is like applying a bandage to a hemorrhaging wound. We keep applying more and more bandages, but unless the source of the bleeding is stopped, the body will soon run out of blood. And we're at a tipping point. And I was in uni learning how to apply bandages, literally. When I was the subject of heavy discrimination, racial discrimination through the university during late 2012, it threw gasoline on my creative torch. I found that my only release was through my artwork. So in 2013, I adopted the artist name that is Lobo Reincarnated. My name comes from a wolf named Lobo, King of the Karampur. He was the last surviving wolf in the southwest state when European settlers were massacring wolves in the 1890s across this country. And based on the story of this real wolf, who survived through this persecution, I took on the name Lobo Reincarnated. This is the picture I drew that represents my artistic identity as an analogy to my real-life experience with racism. So, for the first time in my life, I started sharing my work with the world online, with a picture-a-day series. The response was immediate, and for me at that time was eye-opening. I had a voice. There was a bigger picture. The gift I'd been given was a powerful tool for reaching the masses. After graduating pre-vet, I took a gap year to focus on my art. I definitely knew I didn't want to finish the degree at that university, and I was onto something bigger. I could feel it. Naturalist E.O. Wilson once said, and it's one of my favorite quotes, "We stand guard over works of art in museums. However, we allow the work of eons of millions of years of evolution to slip beneath our fingertips." My goal was to flip the script. This is the core communicator of the human condition. Art is how we enter the minds of the next generation and society as a whole, to create a cultural shift to value these creatures more alive than dead. And as history has shown us, it is what documents the here and now for civilizations to come. A warning, a lesson, or a message of hope of how we, here today, tackled this mass extinction event. From the start, I saw that my work would elicit an emotional response. This had the potential to really change things. So I had a motto that my art was a stepping stone to change the world, and went with it. My next big break came on the 1st of March 2016. CITES had a World Wildlife Day poster competition. The theme, "Their future is in our hands." Those are my hands. This was actually the first time I'd painted an elephant again since I was a child. The hands represent the lives of the rangers that died protecting these species. When it comes to applying a bandage, this is the most dramatic and what buys us time. People are losing their lives protecting these animals. Families are being displaced, and there is a massive human toll woven into this bloody trade, driving some of the most magnificent creatures on Earth to extinction. Illegal wildlife crime is the 4th largest transnational crime in the world, worth an estimated $20 billion US, the largest direct threat to the world's most endangered species. Wildlife crime fuels political instability, funds global terrorism, and international terrorist organizations such as Boko Haram and Kony's militia, to name a few. This makes it not only a grave, destructive threat to global biodiversity, but also a significant threat to national security. This piece turned into a series focusing directly on the legal wildlife trade. It is this series that initially formed the foundation of my idea. These 3 species represent the 3 mammals that are at most dire risk of extinction due to the ruthless trade in their body parts, and whose trade is the most dangerous to protect them from. The images were done for the purpose of boosting the morale of those on the front line and to educate the public on the cost of this trade. However, I found I was yet again applying another bandage. While everyone was moved by my work, was I actually making an impact on stopping this trade? I felt this could go further. When it comes to the wildlife trade, the key is to tackle the demand. Reduce the demand, then the bleeding eases off until it stops. When it comes to these species, the situation is most crucial for the rhino. Poachers are going to the greatest lengths for Rhino Horn. As the demand for wildlife products has expanded throughout Asia, Rhino Horn now trades at prices higher than gold or heroin. These profits fund global organized criminal networks. Corruption severely undermines the law enforcement solution, as outlined in a report for G20 leaders in Germany in 2017. As they reported, the extremely high value of some of these traded wildlife products makes their trade highly profitable, which in turn fuels corruption at all levels of the supply chain, and is used to hamper and influence the effectiveness of investigation and prosecution of the offenders. The illegal wildlife trade will not be defeated by force alone. Corruption needs to be addressed, and law enforcement agencies in countries that still contain rhinos are often understaffed, underfunded, and hard-pressed with more urgent issues such as murder and rape. This route takes time, and while the level of killing for wild rhinos is double the reproductive rate, time is the one thing we are running out of fast. Since 2005, the trade in rhino horn has driven the western black rhino to extinction, the Vietnamese Javan rhino to extinction, and left the northern white rhino extinct in the wild with one male specimen remaining under 24/7 armored guard in Kenya. At current trends, the rhino population is projected to crash as early as 2019, spiraling the rhino into certain extinction, giving us here today just one more year to stop this trade and save these animals. So, what do we do to save the species? Well, I have an idea that I think is worth sharing. The only real hope of turning the tide in the time we have left is to directly target the consumer and reduce the demand. The results can happen very quickly when you directly target the consumer. A key example is the documentary Blackfish, which exposed SeaWorld's inhumane treatment of its orca population. Launched in 2013, Financial Reporters reported that following its release, by July 2015, SeaWorld's profits had plunged drastically because people had stopped going to the park. As a result, SeaWorld phased out its live orca shows. So, Blackfish was not only impactful because it exposed the inhumane treatment, it gave a specific solution to people and spoke to the buyer in an area that mattered to the buyer, thereby motivating users to stop using the product. So, my idea is to apply this in the context of the legal wildlife trade, using art as the vehicle and the solution. Specifically, oil paintings laced with messages that speak directly to the consumer, eliciting an emotional response and triggering a change in their behavior. The legal wildlife trade is essentially a trade in luxury goods. It is the status attached that drives the price and drives the killing. For decades, paintings have been used as the core communicators of power, wealth, and status. So paintings are in a unique position to fight the trade of wildlife products at the source within the luxury goods market. This was my original idea. Now, when researching, I came across a series of lectures by Dr. Lynn Johnson. She's the founder of Breaking the Brand, formed in 2013, a group dedicated to reducing the demand for rhino horn. They did the first in-depth analysis of rhino horn consumers in Vietnam, the lead nation driving the demand. They did sit-down interviews with the buyers, finding out who they were, what motivated them to buy, who they were influenced by, and why. They found that the consumers of rhino horn were men in the top 0.01% of the population, the super wealthy. They buy rhino horn purely as a status symbol, a symbol of wealth to gain favor in business deals and elevate social standing. They found that the consumers don't empathize with rhinos. They love seeing photos with rhinos with their faces hacked off. It feeds into their bad boy image. Now, some people have suggested farming rhinos to meet the demand. However, research of the actual buyers found that they don't care for farmed rhino horn products because it's not seen as a luxury item. Essentially, farmed rhino horn is viewed in the same light as a fake Rolex. The status and pride is only attached to real, wild, poached rhino, and these people have the money to get that. Consumers of rhino horn have stated they will only stop using rhino horn if it negatively impacts their status. The buyers are not influenced by actors, athletes, or entertainers. 16 celebrities can get up tomorrow and say, "Save the rhino" or "Save the tiger," and the buyers will pay zero attention and will have no impact on the demand for this trade. Their role models and most influential people were, as named by them, Warren Buffett, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, and Richard Branson. Basically the wealthiest men in the world. Now, I thought that with this series, I'd reach through art a new level of impact on this trade. However, when I came across this research, I realized even though that these works elicited an emotional response, it didn't do anything to stop this trade, because the people moved by this are not the ones buying these products. So I reached out to Breaking the Brand with my original idea, and what I'm about to show you is the result. Now, logistically, this campaign has been extremely difficult to create for 4 years, because wild rhinos are not exactly cooperative for photo shoots with multimillionaires. Now, this is still a work in progress. By the time this talk is aired, these paintings will be finished. This is Warren Buffett. He hasn't endorsed it yet, but this is the goal, to create works of art that show these figures with rhinos, which is coupled with a statement from them saying that they denounced the use of rhino horn. They don't see this as a status symbol. They disapprove of the killing of these animals and shame the use of rhino horn. And to do this with each one of these people: Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Richard Branson, and Bill Clinton. The people that the buyers of rhino horn specifically named as their most influential figures. I have all of their paintings well underway and in process at this point, though I can't show you them right now until we receive the necessary permissions. I'm working on this project with Breaking the Brand going forward, but this is my idea worth sharing, and I hope it happens because research has shown that it's the only thing that's going to make an impact on saving these species in the 1 year that we have left. This is how to stop the source of the bleeding at the source, the core of the problem. This is how to save the rhino. Thank you. Good job.